on Rebel Radio. I'm Scott Davidson. We are now joined live in the Rebel Radio studios, the one and only Jeremy Wagner, guitarist from Broken Up. What's up, Jeremy?
Hey, how are you, man?
And
thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming by. And we have bassist Diego Soria.
How's it going, man? Thanks for having us.
Diego? Thanks for coming by. Was that Gorgasm shirt?
Oh, yeah.
Supporting the Chicago metal.
Supporting it.
They're playing Chicago Domination, too.
Awesome. That same night as you guys, or?
No, they're playing Saturday. But our singer is Damian Lesky from Gorgasm, so he's doing double duty.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, after our interview here, I got to let those guys in because they want to borrow the Broken Hope jam spot today to rehearse.
For Gorgasm.
For the Chicago they're set for Chicago Domination, yeah.
Awesome. So we got Broken Hope live in the studio. Thanks for coming by.
Absolutely, man. Glad to be here.
Mm-hmm. And looking forward to seeing you tomorrow night at midnight. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. Mm-hmm. At midnight.
The Wire. Now, that was supposed to be at Dirty Nelly's first, correct?
Yeah, it's going to be at Dirty Nelly's, and which I was really excited about because Palatine, where Dirty Nelly's is so close to my house. I'm like, this is dream come true, man. I haven't played a gig near my house since, God, I was like probably 19 or 20. You know, like we'd play a Legion Hall or something, Waukegan, Illinois, we talked about earlier.
Gurney.
Or Libertyville, you know, like VFW Hall or something. So it's been a long time. Usually we're in Chicago or Milwaukee. So Dirty Nelly's, I'm like, yes, awesome. Right down the road. And then it flipped down to the Wire in Berwyn for some other reason. I'm not sure why, but that's all right. You know, I hear the Wire's a really cool room. I haven't been there yet.
Very cool. I've been there a bunch of times. Awesome room. Good backstage area, too. They got different rooms for all the bands.
Yeah.
And you're going to need it for how many bands are playing on this Domination Fest?
Like there's 3 days, and every day there's a hell of a list of bands every day.
20 probably.
Yeah.
So it's Thursday night. Opening night is Thursday, tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are headlining.
Yep.
Then Friday night and Saturday night?
Yep, correct.
So 3 nights of Chicago Domination Fest,
yes.
number 5. Now, this is the first time Broken Hope is playing the Domination Fest, right?
That's correct, yeah. So the timing's really good because we haven't played Chicagoland in 4 years. So it's been a
long time. That's a long time.
And so coming back to our, quote unquote backyard after 4 years feels good. We come with a new album, and we got like this, little trivia thing we've been celebrating, which is 30 years of Broken Hope, which is basically going back to 1988 when I formed Broken Hope with Joe Thychek, our original singer.
Yep.
And Ryan Stanek, our drummer. The three of us formed Broken Hope when we were just teenagers in high school. So it was 1988, and now it's 2018, 30 years.
30 years later,
and,
that's amazing.
So we're just adding that to the pile of fun as we come back to Chicago area and play again. So
and that's part of tomorrow night too. The 30-year history of Broken Hope.
Yeah. So we've got some songs that we added to the set list. We haven't played one song since like 1990 something, and another one since 2001. And we're trying to span all the albums. And every time, no matter if it's the how many year anniversary this is or anything, anytime I hit the stage, for me personally, I'm always thinking about, like, when we play the old songs and stuff, I always think of Joe Thychek, and I think of Ryan Stanek in my head and in my heart, because they're a big part of the spirit of Broken Hope. And so it's cool to still be here after this many years.
That's a long time.
I know we had a 10-year hiatus too, so we've been making up for lost time since we came back as well. So lots happened in 30 years for damn sure, but here we are, and I'm really happy we're going to play Chicago area tomorrow.
Tomorrow night at the Wire in Berwyn at midnight. I'm going to be out there too. And we have a pair of tickets to give away, possibly?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So pay attention to this interview. Yeah. Pay attention. We're going to do a giveaway later on for a pair of tickets for Broken Hope at the Chicago Domination Fest 5.
Yes.
Very cool.
Yeah, let's do that.
Now, how did you find Diego on bass here?
Well, we did a tour in 2013 when our Omen of Disease album came out. We did a tour with Deicide. Diego's band at the time, Disgorge, was on that tour.
I heard of Disgorge, yeah.
during that tour, I knew a couple Disgorge guys from here, just acquaintance-wise, running into them over the years and stuff. And I got to know the whole band because we did this whole North American tour of the U.S. and Canada, and we became friends. And we had a feeling that at some point, just due to internal band drama and some problems, that we were going to need a replacement bass player. And Diego had expressed interest in playing bass for Broken Hope to Damian Lesky, because him and Damian, Diego and Damian, are really good friends. As you see in the studio, he's wearing a Gorgasm shirt.
Yep.
If you see Damian any day of the week, he must have about 50 different Discord shirts. So he's got one for every day of the week and then some.
So like you for Broken Hope and like me for Rebel Radio, too.
Yeah, right.
Like, you were the same shirt, dude. No, I got 10,000 of them.
Yeah, exactly. So Damian's like, hey, when the time came and we were going to need to change some personnel, Damian's like, he's ready to jump in. And I've been hearing that for a while. And so we flew him out, and he had the whole set down that we gave him already. He came in, man, just boom. And he's been a great asset to the band. I refer to him as the Mexican Cliff Burton. And and what's cool is one of his heroes.
That's a compliment too.
Yeah.
It is, man.
Yeah. And he caught his heroes and influences are really, really good. So you, like Cliff Burton, right? Robert Trujillo, and Jaco Pastorius. So,
Butler,
and he's really been great. So that's how it all happened. You know, we just became friends, and he was there right time. And Disgorge, I don't think he's doing anything anymore. So he's been doing Broken Hope, and he's got some other cool opportunities coming up, though. After we do Europe, Broken Hope's taking a long break, and everyone's kind of scattering to the four winds and doing different tours. Like our drummer Mike is in that band Atlas Moth. You know those guys?
Oh, yeah. I play with them.
So they're all right. So they're going on tour as the fall comes around with Paradise Lost and
That's
a
a good
bunch
tour.
of, but yeah, it's really good. Damien, as soon as we land back at O'Hare from the Broken Hope Euro tour, a few days go by, and I think he turns around and goes back to Europe with Gorgasm. So he's got that fully active. But Diego here, Cattle Decapitation, have been recruiting him. So he's got some shows when he gets back home in San Diego area, I think. Or are you doing those?
Actually, no.
You were gone. Those were Napalm Death shows that you're not doing because
I'm flying back at the very first day of those shows. So
but he is going to Japan with Cattle Decap and Black Dahlia Murder, and then doing North America or something, right?
Yeah, it's on the works, but for sure right now it's
Japan.
Japan. You know, a couple of dates in Tokyo, Osaka, and
so
everyone's busy as hell.
Yeah.
That's
so
good,
I'm just glad we got him.
Now, when they're all doing that, you got a third book coming out, right?
Yeah, I've got so in October, my new novel's coming out, and then I signed a new publishing deal, and that publisher is putting up a new horror novel I've got October 13th. There hasn't been an announcement yet or anything, but I'll tell you now, it's called Rabid Heart. So there will be a press release and like a cover unveil for it. Oh, real cool fact: the guy that did my book cover is Claudio Bergaman, awesome artist. He did that new Judas Priest album cover.
Oh, cool!
He's a great artist, good friend of mine. And my first book, The Armageddon Chord, Claudio also did a new cover for that. And that same publisher, the new one, is re-releasing The Armageddon Chord in December. So I got those books coming out, and I just finished another new novel that needs to be edited. And for the first time ever, I'm doing a biography on a famous chef. So
that'll be your fourth book then?
Yeah, that'll be like my fourth book right now cut. So I've got a lot of irons in the fire. Most of them are made of paper.
How long does it take to write a book? I mean, it's got to be, the time put into that's got to be amazing, right?
Yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot of time, but the more the more you do I write every day, you know, that's like my full-time thing I do is write. So outside of Broken Hope and stuff. So when I first started, like I had these first what I call starter novels, kind of like when a band has a demo. You think it's the greatest thing in the world, but it's really, you know, it's not that good. You're just getting your feet wet, right? So I did a couple starter novels that were a big learning curve for me, and they took a long time to write. But now I can write like a 600-page manuscript, like, I don't know, 150, 200,000 words, maybe in a 3-month period, which is, I think, not too shabby.
That's awesome.
For the first draft. And then I usually put that on the side and start writing a new book. And then when I finish the first draft of that, I go back to that other one, and it's like brand new, and I start editing and stuff. So there's a lot of joy and passion I have for writing, fiction, horror, dark fiction,
How about magazines like Metal Forces or something? You've written for those before too, right?
Yeah, I've been published in back in my 20s. I was like,
I remember that.
I always wrote lyrics for Broken Hope, and I'd write short stories and stuff. But there was a period when I was like, I want to be a metal journalist or whatever, and that was like sort of a flash in the pan. I did publish some features, so like I was in Rip magazine. I did some concert reviews in there, and then I interviewed Morbid Angel on the Domination album for Rip magazine. And then I wrote for Terrorizer magazine in the UK when it first came out. And then before Terrorizer, there was another UK mag called Thrash and Burn, and I wrote a couple of things for that, So I interviewed, like I said, Morbid Angel. I've interviewed Machine Head and show reviews, Slayer, Typo Negative, Danzig, from what I can remember. But yeah.
Very cool.
So, yeah. So that was fun.
Now, writing a Broken Hope song is totally different from writing a book. It's probably a lot easier for you.
Yeah, in a way it is. I consider all my lyrics flash fiction or micro fiction, because each one is like a little tiny condensed story. There's different types of lyricists. There's lyricists that are very poetic. It depends on the genre of music and whatnot. With death metal and me being a horror fan and a horror writer, it goes together, because horror and death metal,
they fit.
We're made for each other, So each lyric I write, I should say, tells a little horror story. So, and you know what? It's not always that the lyrics are easier to write than a book, because sometimes I got to work really hard on those lyrics. And sometimes, in the past, our late great singer Joe Thychek and Damian Lesky, who stepped into Joe's shoes, the two of them are very similar in their work ethic, because I write the lyrics, but I always had to turn those lyrics in to the singer, and the singer would take them and apply them to whatever music we wrote, and both those guys, in my experience, have sent me back to the drawing board saying, you need to write more lyrics, or, dude, this isn't gonna fly, this idea is, either lame or not brutal enough. So they both, Joe and Damien, respectfully, have actually made me work harder sometimes and write better lyrics, which is kind of cool too. So my point being, it's not always easy. Like here you go, here's the lyrics. Sometimes I got to work a little harder, but I sure like writing them. Definitely.
Does it start with the guitar riff, or how does a Broken Hope song develop?
It's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? It's could be either one. Sometimes I've written lyrics and lyrics and lyrics at home that never went to any music, and then later be like, hey, look, I got these ideas I wrote down, what do you think? And then the vocalists, I always, with respect, thought, that's your department, you put them to whatever music you see fit. So I didn't say this should go to this song musically or whatever. Now on the riff writing and songwriting side, that's another thing. I come up with riffs at home. I always have, or just jamming with a drummer, whether it was Ryan Stanek or whether it's Mike Michek. Nothing's changed. We just start jamming. Hell, you're a drummer. I don't know what it's like with you and
just
a guitar player, but sometimes you're just screwing around with the guitar player, maybe. Like
that's when the best ideas come out.
And then all of a sudden, stuff comes out. And, Ronnie Van Zant, the late, great Skinner frontman, he said the greatest songs are written on the spot in 3 minutes or less. Sweet Home Alabama and all that. And I got to say, we have written tons of material on the spot. And more so with our new album, Mutilated and Assimilated. I will say that's an album where I'd say, at least with Mike and I, because Damien contributed riffs too. But with Mike Michek and I'd say we wrote like 70%, 75% of the material him and I did together on the spot together, versus me being alone in my room with a practice amp coming up with riffs. So anyway, to answer your question, lyrics or riffs and music could happen anywhere. It's all about where you're at, the inspiration, and what comes out. You know what I mean?
I was at a concert at the Congress Theater. I don't know what year it was. Wasn't that long ago, 5-6 years ago. And Lamb of God was playing. And they praised Broken Hope on stage in front of the 5,000 people that were there.
Yeah, I remember
were you
that.
Were you there for that show?
Randy, yeah. Randy, he's always been into extreme music, you know, and plus, I don't know if you know, Lamb of God's sound man and tour manager is Brian Griffin,
yes,
who used to be in Broken Hope.
Oh yeah, yep.
So, but yeah, I remember that Congress Theater show. That was really
that was awesome, right?
That was really cool. Yeah, to get a shout out like that, because it's
that's
like
major props.
You know, Broken Hope's like definitely not the biggest band in the world at all, and even in our genre, you know, we've always been somewhat underrated and not super huge, and that's fine. To get acknowledged by bigger bands like Lamb of God or Slipknot or anybody, you know, makes me feel good to see that, wow, someone in a huge breakthrough mega metal band.
Carcass, remember that?
You know,
Netherlands Death Fest.
Oh yeah, Carcass too, who I worship and love. Like we just did Netherlands Death Fest, and we played right before Carcass, and they went on and blew through like 3 songs, and then after the 3rd song, Jeff Walker goes, "In case you don't know, we're Carcass, but compared to Broken Hope, we suck." It's like as if the Pope laid the palm of his hand on your forehead and said, "God bless."
Very cool.
Yeah. So yeah, we always appreciate acknowledgement, and more so that people like that just really love the music we've done. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, I'm a fan, you know, of bands because their music, you know, has such an impact on me. So if I do that for someone, whether they're in a big band or no band, it just, I'm glad I have an impact, or what we do means something somehow.
Now, we got Diego's influences on bass. Who are your influences on guitar?
Well, I always say there's 3, I call them the 3 H's that inspired me to actually go, I want to be a guitar player, and a metal guitar player for that matter. And that's Hetfield, Hammett, and Hanneman. And so like Ride the Lightning came out, and I already had Kill 'Em All. And again, I mentioned today's the 35th anniversary of Kill 'Em All coming out.
One of the best thrash albums ever.
Amazing album.
Started thrash, yeah.
And yeah, speaking of that, by the way, just not to digress, but Diego, when we play the song Mutilated and Assimilated, it has a bass intro, and he does an extended intro, and he does part of Anesthesia, Pulling Teeth, as a little salute to
the Burton family, pretty much.
So will that be tomorrow night too?
You know.
Yep.
Yep. So, but anyway, so I had Kill 'Em All, and my tastes in music were going from like Judas Priest, Armored Saint, and Crocus and stuff to heavier stuff. So when I heard Kill 'Em All, that blew me away, you know. But dude, when Ride the Lightning came out, now that just took Kill 'Em All and everything before it, and not disrespectfully, but it just made all that stuff pale in comparison to me as a teenager, 15 years old, and I went, what the hell, when I heard Fight Fire with Fire, and then followed by Ride the Lightning, and then followed by For Whom the Bell Tolls. You got to realize, to anyone listening who wasn't even born then, that was like the heaviest damn thing, life-changing, game changer stuff, you know. I was
Fire with Fire, one of the heaviest songs ever.
Dude, and I was like, I want to play I was nonstop listening to Ride the Lightning, and then 86, and then this happened, friggin' Master of Puppets came out, and Rain and Blood, and that just took things, and I was already started playing guitar into a whole new stratosphere, you know. And then there's so many other albums between 85 and 86, you know, that were also ass-kicking, you know. But after Rain and Blood, then I was still, you know, like how I went from, you know, Priest to Metallica, I was going from Metallica to Slayer,
Yep.
and my tastes were getting more extreme. And then next thing you know, it's like Celtic Frost, and then Death, Dark Angel, Darkness Descends album, and then boom, dude, everything. The death metal explosion started happening. It was like Napalm Death, Morbid Angel, Carcass, Obituary, on, and just here we are. I just couldn't get enough of extreme metal, grindcore, death metal, everything. But those are my first three we could credit for me actually being so motivated to pick up an electric guitar that's all I wanted to do with my life. And yeah.
This is Rebel Radio. I'm Scott Davidson. We're joined by Jeremy Wagner, guitarist from Broken Hope, founding member. Who thought of the name Broken Hope, by the way?
That is a name that I came up with. It was, I'll tell you the story right now and won't bore you, I promise. When we were talking about writing lyrics,
yes,
and writing music. So when I was in high school, I didn't pay attention to a lot of classes when I was in them.
You're not.
I'm not the only one.
I still got a diploma and graduated with a 3.5 GPA, so I did okay. But I was always, writing little horror ideas down. And my lyrics back when I was a teenager were like not always horror oriented. They were all about like kill the posers and we're gonna cross over the metal bridge to the heavy side. Like that, I'm not kidding, dude. That's how cheesy my friggin' lyrics were.
Somewhere.
But dude, I'm like 16, 17.
You gotta start somewhere.
And then, they got darker and more horror oriented. But another thing I did was I wrote dark poetry a lot. So I wrote this one dark poem. It was about like a really dark, mysterious woman, I remember, and her name was like Virginia Broken Hope. Like she had this really dark gothic chick name.
That was the real name, right?
And I thought, it was in a poem, and it wasn't written for anyone. It was a dark poem, like not quite lyrics, not quite poetry, but a mixture of both. So, and in my head though, I thought that name Broken Hope like was heavy, like that was a heavy name. So when Joe Thychek, our original singer, Ryan Stanek, our original drummer, and me were forming Broken Hope as teenagers in high school, we were trying to come up with names for the band. So right around that time, their bands came along like Paradise Lost. Mm-hmm. So I had their demos, thanks to Ross Dolan of Immolation. He turned me on to Paradise Lost, and I still thank him to this day.
Great band.
I love that band. That first album and their demos were so godly. And when you heard a name, you got to remember everyone had all these metal names and really violent, sick names too for death metal bands. So you had Cannibal Corpse, Suffocation, all these bands that had demos out, and they were really extreme sounding names. So we were like, let's write some ideas down for band names that aren't quite typical for a death metal band. And so in the Paradise Lost demos, I'm like, we got to have a name like Paradise Lost, because when you hear the name, you don't know it's such a heavy death metal band, but when you hear the music, boom, and you hear that name, it came together. So we had all these names written down. We had like Vile Demise. I remember that was one of our names on this list, and we had like 12 names and would vote and cross stuff out. And Joe, Ryan, and me all went with Broken Hope, and it all came from that poem, and the rest is history. And those guys, Joe and Ryan, bless them, and they're in my heart forever. Those guys had real high quality control. Like if they thought something was lame, they let
you know it.
They're like, that ain't gonna fly, and they like the name Broken Hope. So I'm glad they did, because I think the name just served us well. When the name, the logo, and the music, it just all goes together. And to this day, I think it's not typical. There's a lot of broken bands out there, Broken Teeth, Broken Bones, Broken Hope, but only one Broken Hope. So
now you said you had a few names like in the hat. You throw names in the hat.
Yeah.
Vile Demise. Any of those names come up in any songs later on as a song title or just as words in a song?
No, not that. No, not really. Yeah. When Joe and I joined up with Ryan. He was already jamming with another guitar player, and they were called Crypt.
I remember that.
And then that was the name that other guitar player had. So we didn't want to jam with that guy anymore. He was quite the egomaniac bully at the time. He was older than us. He was a real jerk. So we got rid of him. And when we did, we're like, we got to think up a new name because that guy thought up Crypt, and we don't want to keep that name.
No.
So, but those names that I mentioned,
Vile Demise,
I just can't remember.
Sounds like a good song name.
I know, right? Yeah, that's why I still remember it because I was pushing that name too with Broken Hope.
Was that
that's
like your second choice if Broken Hope didn't fit?
I think so.
That's a
yeah,
cool name.
Yeah.
We're going to be back with Jeremy Wagner, guitarist, and Diego Soria, bassist from Broken Hope, right after this Broken Hope song. We're going to play a song called Mutilated and Assimilated. What's that about?
Oh, so the new album is, it's all horror-based lyrics, of course. And so what my favorite horror movie is The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing came out in 1982.
Yep.
Yeah, right on. And I had never, made an album that was a tribute to a movie or anything until this time. And Mutilated and Assimilated is all about what happens at the U.S. Outpost 31 base in Antarctica, just like the movie, where the guys down there are mutilated and then assimilated by this alien life form. So I wrote the lyrics to that, and I remember Damien and Mike, we were sitting in the kitchen. I go, hey, I wrote this idea, these lyrics for it's called Mutilate and Assimilate. It's a tribute to The Thing. And those two guys were like, that's a great album title too. So they really wanted to call the album that. So that turned the title track as a tribute to The Thing. And then there's another instrumental piece called Beneath Antarctic Ice, which is also a tribute nod to John Carpenter's The Thing. And then the cover artwork by Wes Benscoter is all The Thing, like this alien life form that's been to a million different planets and can duplicate and replicate all these life forms. When you look at the cover, you see The Thing in this Antarctic ice cave, and it's in the midst of transforming into 1,000 different things. So that's where the lyrics and the title came from, were from The Thing, the movie, which completely influenced me since I was 12 years old. And we just made an album about it, and here we are. So fits great with our whole horror legacy. We kicked it up a notch, I think.
Cool. Now I want you guys to be the DJ and introduce this next song.
Okay, Diego?
Yep. So this is our next song. It's called Mutilated and Assimilated. Hope you guys enjoy.
Broken Hope on Rebel Radio. Rebel Radio, that's Broken Hope, Mutilated and Assimilated. I'm Scott Davidson. We're joined live in the Rebel Radio studio. Jeremy Wagner, guitarist from Broken Hope, and Diego Soria, bassist from Broken Hope. Can't wait to see you guys tomorrow night at the Wire in Berwyn. Great place, great sound, big stage. It's going to be a great show tomorrow night. Chicago Domination Fest 5. What other bands are playing tomorrow night off the top of your head? I don't throw this at the last second, but...
just friends from some old school friends from Backtown Tijuana called Thanatology. They're creating a really big hype right now. They just played OEF, Obscene Extreme Festival in Czech Republic. So they're playing on Friday. I think they're playing at 10 p.m. Worth watching it. It's grind. They dress up and they're super crazy, and they got this doctors theme going on, this gimmick on stage. So really fast, heavy, and worth it.
There's gonna be doctors on stage.
They're gonna be dressed up like doctors.
So someone stage dives and no one catches them. There'll be a medical team
exactly on stage
with instruments in hand. I think there's we know Gorgasm's also playing
Saturday, right?
And yep, and then I think Putrid Pile.
Yeah,
and then To Violently Vomit. I remember that name.
Oh yeah, To Violently Vomit.
You know those guys, don't you? Tell them.
Yeah, To Violently Vomit is pretty much it's like a side project with Diego Sanchez, Mike, previous guitar player from Disgorge. So he's doing pretty much playing Disgorge songs under To Violently Vomit name TVV. So they've been doing it for like almost 8 years now. So they're playing CDF too.
Wow. Yeah, it's a lot of bands.
A lot of bands.
Yeah.
Are you bringing your own equipment, or is there house equipment for everything?
So they have a backline drum set and cabinets. We're bringing everything else. So cymbals, pedals, and then our own heads
Makes a
and everything.
quicker changeover.
Quicker changeover, and we got our own amps, which is great. So we have our we retain our sound, you know.
So tomorrow night you got Putrid Pile from Wisconsin, Abuse from Canada, Carnivore, Diprocess
This Precipice
from Colombia. I never heard of them. Have you guys heard of them?
No.
I heard about the name, but never heard the band yet.
Wounds from Illinois. Gonna be a great show. All the way from Pennsylvania, we've got Post Mortal Possession. This is all tomorrow night, Thursday night, kickoff night. So doors at 5:30, show at
Introvert
6.
Perversions from Missouri.
So that's 5:30 doors, 6 p.m. showtime.
Hey.
You guys hit the stage at midnight, right?
Yeah. Dude, you look at all the band names Thursday, Friday, Saturday. You know, we're just talking about coming up with a band name. So back in 1988, you know, we had a list of 12 names we were trying to get. And
nowadays,
as time's man, you got to be creative to come up with the original name. But
a lot of names are taken.
All these guys have them, so that's cool.
Yeah, they're from San Diego, friends of mine too.
Wormhole.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Slamentation from Switzerland. I like that name.
A lot of these bands you don't get to see on a regular basis. You know?
Yeah.
Chicago
Hell
Domination Fest number 5.
Very cool.
And it's going to be at the Wire in Berwyn. On Roosevelt Road.
Yep.
And I've seen a Legion there a few months ago. Good venue, real good venue.
Yeah. I heard my stepdaughter.
Great sound.
She used to do merchandise for a band some years back, and they played that place. So when I said, "Oh, it got moved to the Wire," I don't know what that's like. She's like, "Oh, you guys are gonna love it. I've been there on tour, and it's great. It's a great venue and stuff." But I can say this, man, we are excited to play Chicagoland again.
First show in 4 years. That's a long time.
First show in 4 years, and we've mixed up our set, and we're playing for a good hour. And we're going to give everyone there 100% Broken Hope from beginning to end. And we're looking forward to seeing everyone. Big time.
Here's a question from me. Rebel Radio over the years played a song. It's on a Metal Blade compilation too. Pitbull Grin. I love that song. The beginning got a dog.
Yeah.
Where'd that beginning come from?
Well, that's on our third album. It's called Repulsive Conception. And when we were doing that album, our singer Joe Thychek, he had a couple of dogs, and his best friend, this guy named Jimmy, who also went to school with Joe and I at Warren Township High School. The three of us, Jimmy, Joe, and I, we rode the school bus together.
In Gurney, right?
In Gurney, yep. And right near Six Flags Great America. And
was there a school up there called Woodland or something like that? Or?
Yeah, Woodland.
I went there for half a year.
That's a middle school. Yeah.
I'm from Chicago, and my dad was a fireman, so we lived in Gurney for half a year in a mansion.
Yeah.
And we had to move back because the fireman had to live in the city.
Oh, no kidding.
I went to school out there for about a year.
And Gurney is where we pretty much recorded all of our demos and our first 2 albums at a studio called Wave Digital. Yeah. So Joe and Jimmy, as time went on, they were both into, dogs. So they had pit bulls. If you look at the Repulsive Conception layout, the group photo of Broken Hope is with Joe's pit bull. Mojo was the dog's name. He's wearing a Broken Hope shirt on a pool table and stuff. So anyway, because of Joey and Jimmy, with the dogs they had, kind of influenced me as a lyric writer. I'm like, the pit bulls get a bad rap, and back then,
it's the owner, not the dog.
I think it's worse now than it was then. Back then, I was always like, these dogs are so powerful. Like, man, if you could get ripped limb from limb, literally, by these dogs. So, I'm always into extreme horror, and I thought, wow, there's an idea. People write about shark attacks. I'm going to write about, if you see the pit bull grin, that means you're going to get either killed or ripped apart. So, as you know, in the intro of the song and during the chorus of the song, you hear that snarling dog. And the story behind that is this is our third album. So we weren't recording in Gurney like we did in the past. We were recording at Brian Griffin's personal studio that he had, which was right next door, like near Waukegan, not far from Gurney, so right next door. And the idea was, let's get a sample of one of these dogs, either Joe's dog or Jimmy's. It ended up being Jimmy's dog, Zaya was her name. And the reason I remember that name is because it was a cool name for a dog, and also that the dog's name is credited in the liner notes of the Repulsive Conception album. So what we did is we took a microphone like you have here in the studio, and we put it on a boom stand where it was at the floor, floor level. It was my job to get the dog worked up while Jimmy held his dog. So Jimmy, I said, what would get the dog real hostile, screwing with it, making fun of it? He goes, get a piece of pizza. The dog loves pizza.
That's awesome.
But don't give it to her. So Brian Griffin's in the control room. He's like, all right, you guys ready? Yeah. He goes, hits the button, rolling. I got this piece of pizza. I throw it on the ground. She's going for it, but Jimmy's holding her back on the leash. So I'm acting like I'm going to it. And then that dog's like on its back feet just going nuts. And I'm just like, thinking about it, going back then, I was scared.
Imagine
if it got loose, because it didn't care about the pizza anymore.
It's mad at you for
Yeah, because it
You were
thought,
the target. Yeah.
Wow.
And we got those samples. It was like a minute of that dog going crazy. Brian's like, that's good enough, man. Brian Griffin, that's good. We're done. I'm just like, Jimmy, please, man, don't let go of that dog. And Jimmy's like, all right, settle down. And then he gave her the pizza, and everything was cool. But that's the story behind the growls of Pitbull Grin. They're real dog growls. And when you listen to Pitbull Grin,
it's in the
and you
lyrics,
hear
too.
him, just think of little Jeremy Wagner, 24 years old at the time, with a giant, massive dog that I was screwing with to make that sound.
The stuff you do for the band.
Right. Exactly.
You got your arm torn off.
Exactly. I risked my ass for this band.
That's for sure. It's Rebel Radio. I'm Scott Davidson. We're hanging out with Jeremy Wagner, guitarist from Broken Hope, and bassist Diego Soria. Thank you guys so much for coming by to Rebel Radio Studios. I'm coming by tomorrow night. I'm going to see a great show at the Wire in Berwyn, Chicago Domination Fest #5. First show in 4 years. So
yeah,
it's the only show for a while, right? I mean,
yeah,
you got 3 shows overseas.
Yeah, well, we got 3 weeks overseas, 3 weeks of shows.
Okay.
Yeah, and then when we come back, all the other band members are off doing different, tours with other bands and stuff. So
last chance locally to see Broken Hope for a
good while. Yeah.
What's the plans when everyone gets back together and start writing next album?
Yeah, outside of the book stuff I'm doing while these guys are touring, like, again, Diego's going out with Cattle Decapitation for the rest of the year.
Very cool.
Damien's got Gorgasm tours booked, and Mike's going out with Atlas Moth. And our lead guitar player, Matt Schlaka, he's a full-time guitar teacher, and he has some different projects that he does. So these guys are all booked up. So while they're out doing that, I'll probably be writing riffs and recording. We did the last album at my home recording studio, the whole thing, with my good friend Scott Creekmore engineering and helping me produce, and he also mixed and mastered it. He did an amazing job. So
he's done a ton of great bands too.
He's done a ton of great bands. Yeah, Scott's awesome, dude. And gotta love a guy named Scott, right?
Yes.
And he helps me, like, if I got ideas or solid stuff, he'll make a click track for me, because I got this great studio, but I admit I'm a friggin' idiot when it comes to doing everything. I'm still on a huge learning curve. So I call up Scott, hey bro, can you come over, get me set up, make a click track, and I'll record riffs. So who knows, maybe, early 2019, the band Broken Hope will get together, start jamming at Broken Hope HQ, and start writing. I'd say writing is going to be the next priority, no matter what, above anything right now. So taking a long break, then we'll write. Take it from there.
How did Broken Hope first get signed to Metal Blade Records?
So back when our second demo came out, at the time there was a new Chicago area record label called Grindcore International.
Yes. So
we signed with Grindcore International, and our first album did really well. I think, like, they went into 2 pressings of Swamp and Gore, our debut. So right after the second pressing, I don't know, I think it sold about 10,000 copies back then, Might have been before SoundScan. I'm not sure. I just remember it selling a bunch. And we played this festival right after it came out the following summer, which was Milwaukee Metal Fest 6. I don't know if you remember that one, but
I do.
It was Deicide headlining, Obituary. Every death metal band in the world was there. Malevolent Creation, Suffocation. And then Keanu Reeves, he had that band Dogstar.
Yes.
And you remember all that stuff?
Oh,
was
yeah,
that the Mecca Arena?
I think we had a Rub Oreo booth at a few of those.
So we went up, and man, that crowd was like massive. There's like 8,000 or 9,000 people in that arena, and we just killed it. And Metal Blade was there, man, and they were like, "Yo, your album sold really well, but you guys just killed it here. What's your deal?" And we're like, "We just did this one album with Grindcore International. That's it." And they're like, "Well, we want to sign you." They signed us, and then they bought the rights to Swamped in Gore and re-released it with a new cover, and it was the best thing that ever happened because Metal Blade put us on the map. And then Brian Slagle
was it Brian Slagle there at Metal Fest, or was it one of the
he was there, and Marco Barbieri, who was the A&R guy.
I know him too, yep.
And Marco later went to Century Media years later. But
yes.
When you had Brian Slagle, Michael Faley, the president who's still at Metal Blade, who else? Tracy Vera, all these longtime people that are still at Metal Blade, good friends of ours, and just that was a turning point for us, with Swamped in Gore and Metal Blade picking us up, and the rest is history, as they say. So, and I'm still pals with Brian Slagle and Mike Faley and Tracy Vera, and great label and great staff. They're one of the only U.S. labels, like there's just a handful that has a passion for metal and love, and they got the same people and the same mission. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
When you see Metal Blade name and logo, you're going to get some kick-ass metal.
It seems like Metal Blade has figured out this, in 2018 is a different world than it was 15, 10, 5 years ago. It seems like Metal Blade's figured out how to release stuff and still get the best out of it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Whereas some labels are still just, running in circles.
Yeah, right.
So next album will be on Metal Blade, right?
Well, we're not sure. Because our last two, we signed with Century Media back in 2012.
Okay.
So we did Omen of Disease. We did our first ever live album and live concert DVD called Live Disease, and then Mutilated and Assimilated. So that was it for us contractually with Century Media. Plus, Century Media sold to Sony.
Yes, I heard about that.
And when that happened, like a lot of people were let go. There's like only a couple people I know, maybe even one left at Century Media. The rest is Sony. And then towards the end, when we finished Mutilated and Assimilated and went out, Sony already bought the company. So I was dealing with people in Japan and all over the place just trying to get product. I had to go through Sony for everything. It was a real pain in the ass. So the independent label is gone, at least stateside with CM. But,
so now you're gonna be free agents, and you just see what the best offer is for the band, right?
Yep, exactly. Right.
That's your job. You got to be like a baseball player.
That's right.
You have to see what team out there is the best fit for Broken Hope.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So you shop, make a couple songs, shop a demo. Is that what you're gonna do? Or
yeah, we'll do exactly that. Do a few new tracks, and they always want to hear what you're doing next.
Quality.
We understand the fear. Yes.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming by the Rebel Radio Studios. I'll be at the show tomorrow night. We're gonna give away a pair of tickets right now. What question should we ask someone who paid attention to this interview? What question should we ask? How do we get the name?
Yeah, that's actually a good question, because that was a good question you asked, and it kind of came out of nowhere. And I could tell you the story because I remember exactly that day. So, yeah, person who can answer
the question
of where did the name Broken Hope come from?
Email.
We'll win email.
Chicago Rebel Radio at yahoo.com. And we'll pick a winner. You have a free pair of tickets for Broken Hope tomorrow night at the Wire in Berwyn for Chicago Domination Fest. And the first person with the correct answer wins.
Yeah.
Now we're going to play one more song. And why'd you pick this song here?
Okay, so what do we got coming up here?
Swamped in Gore.
Swamped in Gore, okay. Well, before we get into this song, I just got to say, I've been long overdue to come down to Rebel Radio.
Yes.
It's been a long
We
freaking
tried.
time. I was here many moons ago.
Oh, yeah.
Might have been Lothian album,
It's probably in
1997.
Probably in
Yeah,
Northbrook.
Northbrook. By that big ass tower.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
That was it. So I wanted to thank you
Thank you.
for having Diego and me here. It's good. We're all here. You, me, we're all here still, right? Represent Chicago.
For sure.
In our own way. So
We
I
all
love you,
metal.
bud. Rebel Radio is
too.
awesome. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Now, I'll leave you all with this. The reason I picked this song, Scott, Swamped in Gore, I want to leave everyone with this, is because Swamped in Gore was our very first album that we had. The Swamped in Gore name is a title track to the album. It's the only album, aside from our new one, Mutilated and Assimilated, where we had a title track. So every other album's just had a title that sums up what you're going to get, you know?
Okay.
So, Swamped in Gore, I'm leaving everyone with this, is because 30 years ago, again, to reiterate, I formed this band with Joe Thychek and Ryan Stanek in 1988 as teenagers. And when this album came out, we were so excited. You know, we weren't even drinking age. And here we are. We got a record deal. And our album, dude, we actually, like, I remember saying, I can't wait to hold the CD of our band in our hand. We didn't even ever had a CD of our band, you know. And all this ties together with one fact about me. I never forget where I come from. Never. So 30 years of broken hope. Here's to Joe Thychek and Ryan Stanek. Also to Brian Griffin, wherever you are, my friend. And this is our first album, and the title track of our first album, Swamped in Gore. Enjoy. We'll probably play it tomorrow night.
Thanks for coming by. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Thanks, man.
See you, man. Thank
Here's
you.
Broken Hope, Swamped in Gore on Rebel Radio.